Folks, I promised you some old-fashioned tilt here on the program. This is the Week 13 Gillcast. We have everyone's favorite permutation of this show. Nate wins, Sammy wins, I don't win. And I don't win. I can't even say I ran bad. It's actually just entirely my fault. Let's get into it.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer.
All right, boys. Tampa Bay, Carolina just ends. We have a great overtime game. There were a lot of great plays. Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown. I don't know if I got one wide receiver right in any format, any contest, underdog, DraftKings, season long. I mean, mother of God, man. The wide receivers, the good wide receivers outside of Jamar Chase being unable to generate fantasy points this year, I can't deal, man. Who
did you play that wasn't right? I felt like everybody was scoring. Zay did some scoring. Mike Evans did some scoring.
Some scoring is fine, but not 30 points, not 35. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, by the way, 7 for 99 is the most Justin Jefferson ass receiving line of all time. You're telling me this man
799 0.
799 and 0.
Well, Johnny Munt's catching touchdowns. I mean, it is tough in these streets, man.
It's unbelievably tough in these streets. I actually think that Cash, most weeks, like the last month, there just really has not been anything interesting to talk about. It's all been super straightforward. I don't think that it was particularly straightforward this week. I'll get it out of the way. I played Justin Herbert, so I did not win. I played John Harbaugh's, cuck word.
Nate played Justin Herbert and he did win.
Let's not bury the lead. That's not why you didn't win. 72% of people played Justin Herbert. So
yeah, you didn't win, Davis, because you played 2 tight ends on a day where running backs crushed the puss. Like, what you doing?
Yeah, and hold on. I need to get the optimal lineups up so that I can remember why I did what I did. I'm running them.
I don't even know if that'll help you. I don't know why you did what you did, and I look at optimals all day.
So this is what I played. I played, and I don't do this all that often. I did play the top ETR blended optimal: Justin Herbert, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, T. Higgins, Puka Nacua, David Moore, Evan Ingram, Taysom Hill, and the Indianapolis Colts defense. This was the most duped lineup in the higher stuff. But the reason why it was the most duped lineup is not because it was the sharpest lineup at all. Because I actually don't think it was the sharpest lineup. And I don't think it was the sharpest lineup. And I don't think it was particularly close. I think the sharpest lineup was the 3 running back iteration of this, where you chose to play Bijan Robinson over Puka and the Jets defense, and then Brian Thomas Jr. instead of Evan Ingram. Very, very straightforward why that was right. And by the way, this is what and we'll get into the swap here a little bit. I played, because I was behind, I played Kyron Williams over Alvin Kamara, and I played AJ Brown over Puka Nacua. Do you know what I had saved 4 minutes before lock? I had fucking Bucky Irving and Adam Thielen saved.
You would not have played you would have died before you played Adam.
I'll tell you exactly why I was going to play Adam Thielen, because he wasn't David Moore. He was direct leverage on 60% owned David Moore. I had it, Nate. I had it saved because T. Higgins got 2 catches at the end. T. Higgins had whatever, he had 9 points or whatever, and then Higgins and Ingram both got garbage time stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm a little bit closer. Is what I thought. Turns out I would have been much better off with old Bucky. Although Bucky was like crazy owned in cash, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, Bucky was crazy owned, and I was shocked
Davis,
when we flipped over and saw Bijan.
Yeah.
Davis, the thing is, when you're behind and you have 2 tight ends, you're not catching up. You know, you got to get off of 2 tight ends. Like, there's no the ceiling there is.
No, I mean, but buddy, Bucky and Thielen would have caught up. Bucky and Thielen combined for 65 points. They would have caught up.
That wouldn't have been a 2 tight end team, though, is what Sammy is saying. Sammy's saying that when you're behind, keeping a tight end in your flex is just unacceptable. It's just not the ceiling. But I would argue that
even if it's quite a tight end.
Yeah, I mean that is insane. I'll take my L's when they are L's, but like no, Taysom not an L, not a tight end. It's not you're not playing him for 4 for 40. You're playing him for multiple tuts, and he actually was less owned than I thought he was going to be. Taysom was less than 50% owned, which I kind of thought he would be the most owned play of the slate, which I was. Well, other than Chase Brown, I knew Chase Brown would be the most owned, but I thought it was basically after doing the swap and seeing the ownership percentages, I thought it was the right thing to stay on Taysom.
I mean, Puka's ownership was the one that was the most shocking of the evening slate. I mean,
ETR had a massive projection on him.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, look, Taysom you're okay.
I feel like you guys aren't like hearing me in real time.
I'm 2 seconds late.
Not on my. Yeah, I'm like 2 seconds late. I'm not on my normal setup. I'm on vacation in San Diego at a resort. The Wi-Fi sucks. Apologies to everybody.
Well, we're gonna do our best. So I played the top ETR optimal, and I did it for a couple reasons. The first being Evan Ingram. It's just like, man, Evan Ingram with Trevor Lawrence in. I kind of thought him versus Brian Thomas Jr. Who's the better fit? Evan Ingram leads all tight ends in target share. He's got a 26% target share since he came back from his injury. Obviously, a good bit of that sample is with Mac Jones. I don't know. That probably was a bit too much. That was like a 3 condom play. Taysom, I don't feel bad about at all. But like I said, the 3v3.
Taysom's a raw dog play.
Taysom's a raw dog play. The 3v3 is effectively Puka Nacua, Evan Ingram, and the Jets, and the Puka Nacua, Evan Ingram, and the Colts defense versus Brian Thomas Jr., Bijan Robinson, and the Jets defense. And I mean, did I really consider Bijan Robinson? I probably would have actually played Kyron. This lineup right here is pretty close to it. It's got Anthony Richardson in it instead of Noah Brown, who obviously I would not have played, but it's pretty close. I don't know, man. Why didn't I play Brian Thomas Jr.? Why did I not play Brian Thomas Jr., Nate? What is wrong with me? Why didn't I?
That's what I'm saying. This was like a weird out-of-body moment for me because I'm listening to you talk about a tight end with a 26% target share, and I'm like, oh, it sounds like something I would say. But then I realized, like, oh, wait, no, I told you Brian Thomas is the leverage of the slate. Like, he's the play. He's 5,500. He's mispriced here. In this perspective, from this slate, he's the one with upside. I just thought on this slate, like, not that Evan Ingram was a bad play from a value standpoint, but like at the wide receiver position, I thought Brian Thomas was like the best play. I thought Brian Thomas and T. Higgins were the 2 best plays at the position for their price.
You know what?
It wasn't even close.
Weird about this lineup? I actually think the worst play is the Colts defense. I actually think the Colts defense is the worst part of it because in my heart, I did not think that Drake May was going to struggle against the Colts. I understood what was going into the projection, and I thought the projection was wrong. Like, I bet on the New England Patriots to win this game. Like, I thought that. So it's like, it's one of those things where when you go into making a cash lineup, you kind of like, I don't know if you guys have this experience. I go into like a whole, like nothing else matters. I'm not hedging out on anything else. I'm almost devaluing my own opinions in cash, if you know what I mean, where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter what I'm doing in tournaments. It doesn't matter what I have in my bets. It doesn't matter how I feel. It's just like, well, that's the number. That's the projection. And the projection says
value hounding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's value hounding. And I feel, I mean, to be honest, I feel kind of dumb because I didn't consider Richardson over Herbert for a second. That feels pretty bad. And then, yeah, Ingram versus Brian Thomas Jr., man, it doesn't feel particularly close. It really doesn't.
I mean, this Herbert thing is like a nut low run out. I'm not going to sweat the Herbert Richardson thing. I think that what you experienced was like just a really bad run out for Herbert with this usage that Herbert has, where it's like he's the entire offense, especially with Dobbins' injury.
That Hassan Haskins fumble, man, that is just like, that ended the game right there. It was like, yeah, Harbaugh is just going to shut this shit down.
But still, I mean, with what we've seen from Herbert over the past couple of weeks, I don't think 5,600 Herbert in this spot, like going up against this Atlanta defense, is something I would do it again. So I don't think Herbert was a bad play at all. And that's why he was 70% owned in cash games. Like he was the best play. I like the no baller take from Sammy of playing Richardson, I think was fine, but I don't think Herbert was a mistake by any means.
Yeah, I don't think he was a mistake. Sammy, your internet is dusting now. It was okay before, but it's dusting now. I don't know. And fuck, I don't know how. And I guess we should talk about T. Higgins a little bit, because he was not as owned in cash as I thought that he would be. He ended up only being 36.8%. Some people played Evans. I guess some people did Puka weirdness.
A lot of people did Lad.
A lot of people did. Yeah, shit, man. Lad McConkey would have had 20 receptions in this game if he didn't get injured and end up leaving. I think if you played Lad, I think that is totally fine. I mean, I did think the T. Higgins spot was very exploitable, though. Like, you just don't get guys who project this strong that people were IKBing it because they were going against Sammy Steelers. I mean, projected for more points than Kupp, than Evans, than Adams, than London, than Pickens, and Flowers. Like, he was way high up there, and people just totally IKB'd it. They just totally just said, nah.
Didn't they know Joey Porter Jr. would be on Jamar Chase? Didn't they know? Weren't they like reverse worried?
I think literally they were. I think literally people were. I saw this mentioned in several Discords where people were like, dude, Joey Porter's going to shadow Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to be open all day. And to be honest, I don't know who Joey Porter Jr. is. I don't know who that is.
What? Do you know who Joey Porter Sr. is?
I do know who Joey Porter Sr. is, but is Joey Porter Jr. supposed to be this lockdown corner? The only thing I saw of him was he got a DPI in this game. That was the only time the announcers mentioned him.
So I have an irrational love for any junior of being a boomer. Anyone who played when like I was young and still first getting into fantasy football, if their son plays, I'm all in. So Marvin Harrison Jr., fully in on him, right? Joey Porter Jr. is the son of Joey Porter, who was a Super Bowl champion outside linebacker for the Steelers.
I was going to say he was a linebacker, though.
Yeah, and his son is he was taken, I think, early second round as a corner, and he was a pretty good prospect. And now he's like a nut corner because he's the son of a former football player. I mean, obviously, yes, he's great.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest, man. I was not sweating this wide receiver cornerback match. I thought before the slate locked, I thought the edges were people not playing Kamara because he's been dusty, which has just kind of happened every single week where people just don't play Kamara to the degree at which he needs to be played. Let's see, what was Kamara owned?
Kamara was like the third
60. I mean,
second highest owned running back. So he was right behind Chase.
You could definitely argue that 61.6% not high enough for him. I mean, I believe he was literally the highest he was the highest projected player by 3 points And
23
was not
carries, 6 targets against the Rams shite defense in the dome. I mean, what are we looking for here? Yeah.
Speaking
let me just say before my internet cuts out.
Yeah.
I want more credit from Nate for the IKB Anthony Richardson. I mean, Justin Herbert was like, what, 60%? Anthony Richardson was 4%. And it's like last week we were like, oh, Richardson scored, 16 points or 13 points without a touchdown. He was definitely the right play. Why was he not the right play here? Of course he was. Justin Herbert, he's got no upside. He just 19, 20 points all the time. It's just like, Whereas Anthony Richardson, he's the raw dog play. You take the condoms off, you go. And even if you looked at like the median projections, they weren't that different. They weren't that different to like, I don't know, have a 30x difference in ownership or whatever. Like I just IKB.
Yeah, I mean,
give me some love, Nate. Come on.
I get it. I think I'd like your lineup more if you had Brian Thomas Jr. instead of Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. But what the fuck is
this? I had
thing?
like $200 extra, and I'm like, ooh, Calvin Ridley.
I was about to compliment you, and I was about to say, before we got on the air, I said, "Oh, Sammy, I don't have anything to critique about your lineup," and then I realized that he plays Calvin fucking Ridley over Brian Thomas Jr. I mean that is.
That's FPS when you look it up in the dictionary. I mean, it's like, I don't know what you're doing there.
Calvin Ridley's eating, bro. What are you talking about? I just thought that having like 0 Jaguars in my lineup was the correct thing to do. Oh, Jesus Christ. Somebody just said pitching Gillcast lineup that Ridley. I have been dunked on, and now I'm going to delete my account. Well, that's tough.
Man.
That's tough.
No, but yeah, Sammy, you're right. No, you're right. Richardson was a good play. I'm just saying I don't think playing Herbert was a mistake, is what I'm saying. So I also don't think that's where you lost, Davis. So as due to the 30-something point delta between our teams.
Jesus
Christ. Yeah, you lost because you played Evan Ingram as your flex or whatever. When Bucky Irving was available, when Alvin Kamara was out there, I mean, Bijan Robinson, I mean, these guys were just all smashes. Evan Ingram is 7 for 41 all day. Every game of his career, that's his game log. 741-0. I looked it up.
No, let me tell you, he doesn't go 741-0 the week that I have 100% like not close stone cold fade on him. That is the week that Evan Ingram scores. And I mean, I don't know, play this game over. I mean, obviously Brian Thomas Jr. would also do well in the event that Trevor Lawrence does not leave this game, I think probably. But Ingram,
Brian Thomas does better for this if
yes.
This game goes more towards him. So that's why the Evan Ingram thing is fine in a vacuum, but when you consider this slate, I don't know. Bijan's ownership in cash games was unacceptable.
This is what I needed from him. I needed the 10 for 102. That's what I needed from Evan Ingram. That was the only way. That was the only way it was going to happen. I mean, a couple people in chat just asked about Bucky Irving. I mean, the thing is like I loved Bucky for tournaments. Bucky was like everyone loved Bucky for tournaments. Not like I was sneaking one by there, but the input volatility with the Buccaneers running backs is real enough that I thought he was probably too thin for cash, where it's like he can lose the goal line work to Sean Tucker. He does lose the passing down work to Rachaad White. Like Rachaad White was the running back who was in there in the overtime. He was Rachaad White was like, it's like they don't hate Rachaad White. I mean, obviously this will be the last chance to play Bucky Irving below 6,000 or whatever. So I to be honest, did not consider Bucky for a second until I got to swaps. And I was definitely correct to swap this week. There was no chance. If I would have stayed on Kamara and Puka, I also would not have been.
The ownership you would have taken on with those guys, you couldn't have separated.
Yeah.
I mean, because your only separation piece, like from a
And they were,
fantasy
they were
football
not owned.
actually.
AJ Brown was 9%, Kyron was 6%. That's exactly what you want to swap onto. There was a moment there. There was a moment there in the first half where Kyron rips off 2 long runs and scores a touchdown, and then AJ Brown has 3 consecutive catches, and I was like, did I do it? Is the swap king back? And then AJ Brown literally did not get a target in the second half. Registered 0 targets in the second half. All right, Nate, let's do your lineup. You played the same lineup as Sammy. Basically, just talk to me.
No, I did not play the same lineup as Sammy, to be clear. I did not fade Brian Thomas.
He played the men's league version of my lineup.
Nate, you played Justin Herbert, Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, David Moore, T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr., Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, and the Jets. Sammy played Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, David Moore, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, and the Jets. So really, just talk to me about Bijan, because that's kind of a non-Nate play. It's kind of a non-Nate play, Bijan Robinson.
Well, I kind of looked at running back position, and I thought the 3 best running backs by far were Kamara, Chase, and Bijan. And I think when you consider Bucky's range of outcomes, like obviously this game, it looks like, oh, Bucky's the bell cow, but like you were kind of hitting on it. It's not necessarily that. Rachaad White will get work. Sean Tucker's always there. And it's very different for a guy like Bijan. And people want to talk about Algier and whatnot, but Bijan got 26 rushing attempts in this game with 6 targets. That's Kamara workload. That's an incredible workload in this spot. And so, and Bijan, I think I was shocked to see how low owned he was in cash. Like he was like 15, 20% owned in cash. I thought he was as good of a play as Kamara and Chase. So yeah, I really wasn't going to get off those 3. Those are my guys. That was kind of the only thing about the 2 tight end teams that I looked at is like, you're fading one of those 3. And I just don't see which one of those 3 is fadeable, So that's kind of where the team started at this week with those three running backs. And then if that takes your 2 tight end build off the table, then you're just looking at wide receiver stuff, which, we've already talked about Brian Thomas and T. I felt great about. And then DJ, and not DJ Moore, but David Moore was like the punt that I thought worked.
Yeah. So we have not mentioned David Moore's name. I tried every way possible to get off of David Moore because what happened in this game is like best case scenario for him. He had 4 points before the final drive of the game. David Moore is a 29-year-old journeyman who's been on 4 teams. He spent more time on practice squads than starting. He is not a target earner. He's bad. Like there's no, like with Kayshon Boutte, that was that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we could be like, well, he was a 5-star recruit at LSU. He, like the old coaching staff hated him, but maybe Kayshon Boutte is good, right? Maybe. But we know for a matter of a fact, David Moore is a terrible football player. I tried every way possible to not play him. I did not play him in tournaments. I thought he was a dog water play. Just none of the teams made any sense. There was not really, it would have required what you would have had to have done is you would have had to have played Bucky over the 7K spot. And it would have been like Bucky, Brian Thomas Jr., T. Higgins, and I don't even know. Zay Flowers, maybe.
Zay probably.
Yeah, it's really hard because I tried to get Bucky in as my 3rd running back. I tried to replace Bijan Robinson with him and see what it looked like, and I just couldn't do anything with that other spot that you can't quite get up to Puka. So it's like, what do I do here? It was very, very in between.
Yeah.
Obviously Bucky smashed here, but I think Bucky over Bijan, I think is a mistake.
In the long term of your life, if you're presented with these spots 100 times and you fade the guy who gets there on efficiency, kind of has uncertain volume, and it's like a matchup based play, the Panthers are terrible and stuff, and you just take the boring guy who gets I mean, Bijan had 33 touches in this game, like a very Kamara-esque workload for Bijan Robinson in this game. It's like, I played more. I think it was fine. I mean, I just wish that DraftKings would change the wide receiver pricing so that we don't have to do this. I trust me, I don't want to be playing Evan Ingram, man. Price Evan Ingram appropriate for his volume, and then also give us some discounts on a wide receiver every once in a while. Just every once in a while, can T. Higgins be 5,900 instead of 6,600? You know,
there's a discount on Brian Thomas Jr. You didn't want it.
Yeah, you got to take the discounts when they're there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I thought Evan Ingram was legitimately discounted. I really like the whole because the pricing was done with the idea that Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, he wasn't not discounted. No one's saying he wasn't, but it was just there's better plays available.
Yeah, your guys' side of the 3v3 was better. Not just because of that, not just because of the skill position players, but also because you played the Jets defense instead of the Colts defense. The Jets defense was a better play. The Seattle offensive line is bad. West Coast team traveling east. The Jets defense has skilled players. The Jets are so funny. They're the most over fucking rated team in the NFL, but like once every 3 games, they decide to play up to the talent level of the roster and they just smash. It's really insane. So there you go. The swap, I had to swap. Obviously, I wish I would have swapped onto Bucky, Thielen, and I guess it would have had AJ Brown in there, but I mean, Thielen got 1 billion points, so I'm sure it would have been fine.
If you would have swapped,
how about that whirling derby?
How about that whirling derby
in the Gillcast?
You're shipping
Sammy,
it.
This is the time where the no ball stuff, later in the season. This is it. This is Sammy's time to shine.
Yeah, you can't just click the button on the ETR optimal and print. You hate to see it. I did see some people wanted to play Mike Evans over T. Higgins, and I don't know if he got more points than T. Higgins or not. That is an IKB that is not great. You should not be doing stuff like that. T. Higgins is like I saw a great stat today. The Bengals have the highest points of the season in their games, like combination of points they've scored and points they've allowed. They're just like the nut team for DFS. All right. I had a couple teams that were like fine or whatever in tournaments. I will bring up the team that I liked the most, which is the team. Oh, and we even have the actuals because we waited a little bit. So that is nice. This was the team that I played in the Big Spy. So this was the 4,444 entry team. I was very, very big on this Eagles Ravens game, which I mean, obviously in hindsight feels terrible now, but basically the thinking was these are the best players in fantasy. Hurts, best fantasy quarterback. Lamar, best fantasy quarterback. AJ Brown, like the most efficient wide receiver in the NFL, although he ended up being way overowned, which is like classic FPS stuff. But I did counterbalance that, Nate, because in my head, I knew he was going to be overowned. Like I went into this play knowing I was not getting one over on anybody. It's the reverse Kamara, where every week Kamara comes in under his projected ownership. AJ Brown was definitely coming in this week. So the team was Jalen Hurts, Bucky Irving at 43%, Brian Robinson Jr. at 3.5%, AJ Brown, Zay Flowers. I played Kayshon Boutte instead of David Moore. They were the same price. Evan Ingram,
and he got 0.1 higher. I mean, ball.
He did get point. I thought that was a touchdown, by the way, the 2-point conversion he caught. I thought it was a touchdown when I was watching. So I was like, yeah, let's go. Evan Ingram, 6%. And Taysom, a very healthy, honestly, 26%. I mean, that is, I thought, quite low for Taysom at his projection. And then the Jets defense. I know this simmed well before. I have no idea what it will sim like. in the actuals. I'm gonna guess
it's
going to sim.
Like my stuff. It's not going to sim well afterwards because Bucky was also way overowned. So you basically fell on two of the, like what I would call like the grenades of the slate from an ownership standpoint.
But Brian Robinson and Evan Ingram came in way under. So I
think grenades like that hurt you worse though at like the higher price position. Like AJ Brown grenade 23.5% owned when he was projected to be 7 is like, it's hard for a lineup to recover from that. So I think it's not going to sim well. At least it doesn't in my stuff.
We are gonna find out. I think you're probably right about Bucky. There you go. So not great. 17.83%, very low cash rate. Pretty high first percentile rate, 1.5%. Top 1 percentile. Basically aided by, I would assume, by Brian Robinson Jr. and Booty. Booty having a projection, like a ceiling projection that was close to David Moore and Brian Robinson Jr. Boy, when Brian Robinson Jr. ripped off a 40-yard touchdown to start the game, because I played a bunch of him, I was like, wow. Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Brian Robinson Jr. teams, I mean, I'm going to the fucking moon. I mean, Chase Brown scored in the first quarter too. Like, I was like, dude, Davis, you played so good. You're such a genius. I had a bunch of teams that looked good going into the final game. And then Lamar got to like 19 or something, but Hurts and Lamar stunk. But that was like my big stance today. Was basically I played Chase Brown, Brian Robinson Jr., and Bucky.
Brian Robinson was such a sharp play, man. Like, he really was. Like, home 6-point favorite. No Eckler. McNichols, like, you think, at least I had the impression he was kind of a pass catcher. He really hasn't caught passes this year, and so it made a lot of sense that it would be the B-Rob show, and it was. Yeah. Sharp.
Yeah.
Did you consider TJ Hawkinson at all at tight end? With so many double tight end teams, TJ Hawkinson teams simmed out really well in my post stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I played any. No, I did, because I did one Darnold double. I did one Darnold Jefferson Hawkinson.
I had this sick position on Prize Picks and Underdog where I used TJ Hawkinson over 39.5 receiving yards on like every ticket. And it was the one thing, if it happened, I'm rich. And if it didn't, and he had 3 for 28, like like completely shell shocked by this outcome. It's so sick. Like, I'm such a dumbass. Shaking my head.
Yeah. Most of my teams look something like this, basically. Like, expensive quarterback, some combination of Bijan, of Bucky, Chase Brown, and Brian Robinson Jr., one cheap wide receiver, one expensive wide receiver, then rotating through Zay Flowers, Brian Thomas Jr., T. Higgins. Didn't find whatever it would have taken. I don't know. Well, let's see what won the SPY this week. Let's look. I couldn't even begin to guess. Jaden Daniels, Bucky Irving, Tony Pollard, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Trey McBride. So double tight end, double stack with a Tony Pollard bring back. It's a cromulent team from 940 boy. It was a good.
I mean, the reason it's a good team is because it's a double stack. It's a double stack, or it's a double tight end team with neither of the tight ends that were owned.
Ertz more owned than Ingram. But Ingram was 6%
no Westbrook Akine is shocking.
I know. Well, this is just the SPY. You probably needed Westbrook Akine in the millie, I would guess.
Yeah, and this team had Pollard, who was a dud.
Well, you live.
That's why these single entry ones are fun, because it's like, even with
you don't need the gig and nuts. Yeah. All right. Let's see, Sammy. Let's see if we can get a team in for you before your resort Wi-Fi goes out. What contest do you want me to check?
Okay. Same contest, big SPY. We did a Stafford double with Stafford, Cup, and Puka.
Got it.
We brought it back with Alvin Kamara. And we had Chase Brown and Bucky Irving. Also at running back, we had Taysom Hill. Wait, did we?
Double bring back Kamara and Taysom?
That's not what I played. Sorry, I did not do that. I clicked on the wrong tab.
Sammy, do you want me to go with your team? Matthew Stafford, Chase Brown, Matthew Stafford, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, David Moore, Dalton Schultz, Alvin Kamara, Patriots. This is your team, Sammy?
That's my team. Dalton Schultz is such a fucking gal brain, big brain, massive brain play. All the guy does is gotten 3.8 fantasy points every week.
Sammy, I got this team. I'm not shitting you. I got this exact team in my runs and fucking tossed it out. I said, Dalton Schultz, get the fuck out of here. No.
Well, screw you. Look at all those Sklansky bucks I banked today, baby.
Yeah, you did bank some Sklanskys.
It's not okay in my stuff.
I got to be honest. I think this is fine. I have no real criticisms of it. It's just the type of team I would never do this in my. I did do a Stafford double, but I didn't do it with David Moore because every Stafford double has those two. Like if this makes sense, every Stafford double has these two guys. So even if Stafford doubles are not that unique, you're overlapping 3 of 5 slots with like 50 other teams in this contest. Does that make sense?
I don't give a squirt because I got Dalton Schultz, who nobody's going to click on, and Patriots defense direct leverage off of both the Colts and Anthony Richardson at 4%. You know, we just vibe. That's what we do. The reality is it doesn't make sense to do a Stafford double any other way because their target distribution is so skinny. You know,
I'm not saying that. I'm not criticizing. Good. Yeah, that I think is good. I don't like the dude. I just got the most. I just checked my phone. Is there anything more depressing than when you won notification?
Yeah, and it's the last thing you put in.
And it's no, dude. It was literally $79. I got.
Congratulations, it's been credited to your account. Davis is like, oh well, at least I get to keep my power on this month. Right.
Oh,
it's a utility.
Oh, mother of God, man. Anyway, what I hate about this lineup is the occurrence of Alvin Kamara is going to also be really high with Kupp and with Puka, just because that's how people play. And Bucky is so giga chalk, and David Moore is super giga chalk, and Bucky and David Moore, like in a vacuum, they're all fine. Basically, what I'm saying is David Moore was shit ass. Is really really.
I should have played Booty. Should have played Booty.
Or Kendrick Bourne or AD Mitchell. I mean, we've gotten a long time into this without mentioning AD Mitchell. I almost played AD Mitchell in cash. I almost played AD Mitchell over David Moore in cash.
I really loved AD Mitchell.
It was $400 more. If I had the money, I was going AD Mitchell. In my red zone, I played AD Mitchell. Obviously, he was the IKB team.
I played a bunch of him in tournaments. Watching him drop that 50-yard bomb, I was just like, bro, can you just give me a reason to believe? Can you just come on, man? Can you just?
I mean, we're just sitting here thinking about Scott Garrett being like, oh man, this guy's ass score is off the charts. Like he's just gonna do it. He's just got so much ass.
And dude, he just gets open, bro. Like he is literally. Yeah, he just
so
I don't
young.
know, man. He can't focus.
He's going to be good. I actually thought Richardson doubles were like a great play in tournaments.
I did one. I didn't do a double. I just did Richardson Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell teams.
All right, Nate, give the people what they want.
I mean, you guys know I have nothing to break down. It was
Oh my God.
Remember? I did all afternoon was I ran swaps off of my cash team.
Nate,
how does
explain to
this
people.
lead? Nate, mea culpa. Let's hear it.
Yeah, at freaking
Nate's good for one of these
11:59.
every season. Every season he does this. Usually it's week 1. But
Yeah,
this week he
without-
waited until week
Well,
13 to do it.
11:59. I'm sitting there, entering my last couple head-to-heads. Levi does something over here, and I'm looking over at him, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I go back and it says contests have started, and I'm just like, I didn't upload the sheet. I just didn't upload it. I just had a total brain fart, and so literally at noon I'm like, I have my tournament, or I have my cash team everywhere. So all I did for tournaments in the afternoon, like right before the late slate, was I just ran swaps off of my cash team. So I have literally nothing to break down for tournaments because there was no good thought. I mean, luckily I cashed most of those teams because
I was going to say the cash team was pretty good.
Yeah, played sharp, so it was okay, but I had nothing to break down. So would I have made money? Someone said, and the answer is no. I had a lot of Sam Darnold.
Did you min cash? Did you min cash everything you entered though? Because your cash team got one.
Basically, I had like probably my best tournament week yet. If you want to have a really high floor for all your lineups, just make a mistake and upload your cash team. Into 70-something tournaments.
Feels so sharp. Do you guys want a second tournament from me then?
No, sure. I did play a bunch of Bucky teams because Bucky was a later slate
because he could swap. So this was the Nate got to swap from this team. So we got to swap off of David Moore on some teams. He got to swap off of Taysom Hill on some teams. He got to swap off Kamara on some teams. So you had some things you could do.
Yeah, I guess we could break down my the main swap that I did. So I did a bunch of swaps, but there was the main one I did. I swapped. Let me pull it up. So what did I have open? I had a wide receiver position open,
a tight end, and a flex.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pull up. My main swap. What I did was I moved onto Zay Flowers instead of David Moore. So it was going to be David Moore, Taysom Hill, and Alvin Kamara. And I swapped most of my teams onto Zay, Goddard, Irving. Zay, Goddard, Bucky was probably my most common 3-for-3 swap. And then I did some other variations of it. One, which was like a Evans Irving team, but I think Irving was probably my most owned swap off Kamara, which ended up being great, but frustrating moment of flock.
Nate, you run so pure that when you forget to upload all your tournament teams, you just have a good cash team and min cash everything and still end up smashing.
That is God's
such a life for you.
Yeah. That's very ideal.
Needed that this week.
All right, Sammy. Let's run one more team. You can give me one more team, then we can get out of here.
All right. This team is assy. This is in the big red zone. This will not sim well.
4,000, the 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right, it's Anthony Richardson at QB. Then it's Kamara and Brown.
Everybody played this combo. Kamara and Brown had to be like the most combo-owned guys of the year.
I know. AJ Brown. Unclutch.
AD Mitchell.
T. Higgins, AD Mitchell.
It's just a cash team, bro.
Yeah, it is. David Moore, obviously.
This is terrible.
This is going to sim really well.
Yeah, it's going to sim really well. I'd never in a million years play this.
The Patriots defense.
If it's one of these days, you should try to play a team that maybe makes some money.
And obviously Trey McBride at tight end.
Oh, you know what? You saved it. I like this now. This is gonna sim. This is gonna sim okay. This is actually gonna sim. This is gonna sim fine.
I don't know. I played my defense against my quarterback, which felt bad, but I was like
No,
in my
pick
car.
6, bro. Pick 6.
I was like in my car.
You really turned that around with Trey McBride, man. I was ready. I was not tracking the salary there. If that had been, this is good. This is a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't the combo ownership of Kamara, Brown, T. Higgins, David Moore, because the type of people that are playing Kamara and Chase Brown together are also the type of people who have a fucking established their own subscription and are playing David Moore and playing T. Higgins. You know, I do think about that stuff when I build lineups. I'm like, the people who are building off ETR, these are the type of people who are going to be playing the quote unquote good plays. So there's going to be a bunching effect where even if T. Higgins is under-owned, he's going to be over-owned with these players I'm putting him with because they show well in the projections that I'm using. So I do think about that.
Yeah. So like the optimal way to play
Moore and AD Mitchell together. And so I use that to like run up to McBride. And I thought that's what
Sammy, that was sharp.
The optimal way to play would be to play ETR projections, but then lock a guy that
they don't like,
they hate, that no one else who builds that way is
like McConkey.
Yeah, someone that they've been talking down on all week. I think that's like
ETR their projections didn't love McConkey this week, but the ball never.
One of the questions, Davis, just real quick, someone asked me who the best plays of the weeks were. In my stuff, above 5% owned, the highest ROI players based on the 400K SPY that we just looked at. Sam Darnold at 5% owned was a great play. Bijan at 10% was a great play. Evan Ingram, great play at 6%. T. Higgins, God tier play at 9%. Alvin Kamara, always a great play. He was 21%. Will Dissly at 6.4.
Yep.
And then Hawkinson at 13. And then Chase Brown was like right there as the 11th.
If you were going to do a double tight end play, like the Darnold, Hawkinson, and McBride double was like, I thought really sick.
Yeah. And then the worst plays, which I always like looking at, Baker Mayfield at 10%, AJ Brown at 23.5%, Mark Andrews at 10%, Cade Otton. 11%.
No, your stuff doesn't know ball. You got to adjust the projection on Mark Andrews. The projections don't know he's healthy again. He was
10% owned. So
he should have been 18% owned.
11% owned Cade Otton, and then 24% owned Nico Collins, and then 43% owned Bucky. Not a good play in tournaments. Marvin Harrison at 10%, and then Gus Edwards at 20%.
The Marvin Harrison play, because Jonathan Gannon said in the morning they were going to give him more targets, is like truly, it's all time. It's all that is all time stuff.
Yeah,
and then
all time, and then he catches a touchdown. Hey, I thought Joe Mixon was a really strong play, and he ended up having a good game. What did he look like ownership wise? Did people get onto him?
Yeah, he was like nearly 20%.
Mark
he was
Andrews
like 2% left
by Isaiah Likely.
Isaiah Likely didn't do shit to Mark Andrews.
I mean, it was
Mark
still
Andrews
good, 8-7, but
Mark Andrews all the routes. Yeah, Marvin Harrison is going to appear in the worst plays list every week. He projects for like I think he literally projected for 10 points this week.
It's amazing how owned
that's not affecting. That's not talking about
12.
the coach speak index.
Yeah,
I think Gannon has like a 75% reliability.
12 points, dude. Let's see some other wide receivers who are projected for 12 points. This will be fun. We got Rashad White. We got Dallas Goedert. We got Michael Pittman Jr. We got Terry McLaurin for 13. That's really funny. JMO every main slate. He's always under-owned. All right, boys. That'll wrap us up. I'm over it. Didn't get there this week. I played bad. What can you do? I mean, come on, dude. Brian Thomas Jr. versus Evan Ingram. I'm a noted Evan Ingram hater. I'm one of the.
That's why this is so weird to me.
I'm one of the foremost.
It's so
Evan
bizarre
Ingram
that
haters.
Nate didn't play Evan Ingram and you did.
Our roles are
having an
something's
aneurysm.
going on, man.
Something's
Yeah.
happening in the universe. Like Brian Thomas is a Davis play. I mean, he's like this receiver who has this upside, and then you have Evan Ingram with a 26% target share who's never scored a touchdown in his entire
Evan
life.
Ingram's whopper for a tight end. Davis, you just don't understand. If you consistently fade these $4,800 tight ends with this degree of targets just over the long term, you're never gonna make any money. You're never gonna make any money. And then somehow Nate just comes through the abyss and just realizes that Brian Thomas Jr. is a grown-ass man. You know what he is? He is the Jacoby Myers of tight ends. Evan Ingram is so the Jacoby Myers of tight ends, man.
You faded Bijan Robinson.
I think the story of this season is that Nate knows ball. I mean, bizarre outcome, but it's true.
It's been a weird season.
It's sickening. But what can you do? All right, everyone, we're going to be out of here. If playoff best ball contests are live tomorrow, which I think they probably will be, there will be a stream tomorrow afternoon. If there is not playoff best ball contests, there is not going to be a stream tomorrow afternoon. So go and annoy the people over at Underdog. And Nate, Sammy, and I will be back next week.
It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks